The battlefield lay in silence except for the low hum of alien machinery and the crackle of distant explosions. Dust and smoke hung in the air, making the sky look like it was bleeding. Craters pocked the land, and scorched metal and broken armor littered the ground. The coalition army of alien species stood over the remnants of the human forces, their towering forms casting long shadows in the dying light. They moved with confidence, their voices echoing with triumph. "We have won," boomed the leader of the coalition, a being with 4 muscular arms and eyes that glowed red. Its voice carried over the battlefield, shaking the ground beneath them. "All humans are either dead or too weak to fight. This world belongs to us now." The aliens laughed, their voices harsh and metallic. They stomped among the fallen, inspecting the scattered weapons and ruined vehicles. Smoke rose from a burning tank nearby, and in its glow the aliens saw the human survivors. Only a few remained, battered and exhausted. Most were sprawled across the ground, coughing or groaning, but one soldier stood apart, silent and still, his figure barely moving. He wore a battle-scarred exosuit, scratched and dented from countless hits, but it still functioned. His helmet reflected the light from the fires around him, hiding his face completely. He did not speak, did not move aggressively, and yet his presence carried a weight that the aliens did not understand. The coalition commander walked closer, each step shaking the ground. Its 4 arms flexed with anticipation. "Come forward, human," it demanded. "Your fight is over. There is no way you can survive this." The human did not respond. He tilted his head slightly, not in fear but in observation. The commander's eyes narrowed. No other humans had resisted this long. They had collapsed hours ago. This one was different. A smaller alien with insect-like features scuttled forward. "He's just afraid," it hissed. "Let's finish him before he gets any ideas." The commander ignored it. Instead, it circled the human slowly, studying him. Every step the alien took, the human's eyes behind the reflective visor followed. The human did not flinch, even as the air around them trembled from the alien's steps. "Your courage is meaningless," the commander said. "You cannot match our strength. We control the battlefield. Your allies are gone. Surrender now and your death will be quick." The human still said nothing. Inside his mind, calculations raced. He remembered the missions that had led him here, the long years of training and the countless obstacles he had overcome. He remembered Earth, its oceans, mountains, deserts, and skies, all places that had trained humans to endure. He remembered the countless times humans had been outnumbered, outgunned, and still survived. The commander grew impatient. "Enough games," it roared. With a wave of its arms, energy beams shot from its weapons, tearing up the ground near the human. Dust and debris flew into the air. The human moved, but only slightly, enough to avoid the worst of the blasts, his movements precise and measured. The aliens blinked in surprise. They expected him to panic, to run, or to fall. Instead, he stood tall. A younger alien, small and wiry, jumped forward with a blade in hand. It attacked, aiming for the human's helmet, but the human moved with speed the aliens could barely comprehend. He sidestepped, letting the blade pass harmlessly, and then shifted slightly, placing himself in a better position. The aliens hesitated. No human had shown this level of control. The human's thoughts were calm, his mind sharp. He did not see the battlefield as it appeared to the aliens. He saw patterns, weaknesses, and possibilities. The aliens were powerful, yes, but they were predictable. Their confidence blinded them. Their movements were big and slow, and their minds were focused on pride, not strategy. "You are foolish to resist," the commander shouted, its voice shaking with rage. "You will die!" The human raised his hand, not as a threat, but as a signal to himself. He was counting steps, noting positions, and preparing for what would come next. His calmness unnerved the aliens more than any weapon could. Then, from the corner of the battlefield, another human soldier, a young recruit, crawled forward. He had been hiding behind a ruined wall, injured and barely able to move. The human standing tall noticed him. With a slight nod, he silently encouraged the soldier. Small signals, unnoticed by the aliens, passed between them. Coordination, even under extreme conditions, was instinctive for humans. The coalition leader raised its arms. "We will destroy you all," it warned, summoning more energy weapons. "Prepare for final attack." As the aliens gathered their strength, the human did something unexpected. He crouched slightly as if he were preparing to spring. But it was not fear that made him crouch, it was calculation. Every movement was deliberate. Every second mattered. The aliens' weapons fired, tearing up the ground around him. The explosion shook the air, but the human did not panic. He timed his movement perfectly, rolling to the side as shards of debris flew past him. In that brief moment, he closed the distance to a nearby ridge, using it for cover. The aliens blinked, surprised at his speed. They had assumed his slow, standing position meant weakness. From his new position, the human observed the aliens again. They were confident, proud, and reckless. They thought victory was guaranteed. That mistake was all he needed. Humans had survived worse. Humans had faced predators far stronger, storms far deadlier, and challenges far more impossible than this. And yet here he was, still standing. A group of alien soldiers approached the ridge, thinking to trap him. But the human had already calculated their path. Using a small hidden device from his suit, he activated a smoke release, filling the area with a dense white cloud. The aliens stumbled, their vision impaired. Confusion spread among them. From the smoke, the human moved silently, almost invisible. He did not attack. He observed. He waited. Patience was a weapon humans had learned to use well, especially when outnumbered. The alien's arrogance was becoming their weakness. "Where is he?" one alien hissed, swinging wildly with its blade. "He cannot hide forever." The human emerged from the smoke, not with aggression, but with careful steps. The aliens' eyes widened. They had assumed their weapons and numbers were enough. They had not expected strategy, stealth, or resilience. In the chaos, the humans' team began to move too. Small groups taking positions behind debris, ready to act. Coordination was silent but effective. Each human soldier was like a single note in a larger symphony, and the human standing tall was the conductor. The commander, sensing something had changed, barked orders. "Surround him! Crush him! Show him the power of the coalition!" But the human anticipated each move. He dodged, he blocked, and he maneuvered the battlefield to his advantage. The aliens grew frustrated. Every action they took seemed to backfire. Their confidence wavered for the first time. Even in the midst of destruction, the human's mind remained clear. He remembered one lesson above all. Victory is not always about strength or weapons, it is about vision, adaptation, and willpower. He had all three, and so the battlefield, which had seemed like a place of inevitable defeat for humans, became a stage of tension. The aliens declared victory, convinced their triumph was certain, but the human soldier, helmet reflecting the fires of war, remained standing, silent, observant, unbroken. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the cratered land. The aliens did not yet see the storm they had awakened. They did not know that human resilience, patience, and cunning were about to change everything. The coalition commander raised its arms once more. "Humans, your resistance is meaningless. This world is ours. Surrender or die." The human said nothing. He did not flinch. He did not panic. He only watched, calculated, and waited. In that moment, it became clear that the story was not over. Not yet. And in the shadows, where most had seen weakness, the first sparks of human ingenuity and defiance began to shine. The human crouched behind the ridge, watching the alien forces spread across the battlefield. Their confidence still burned bright, but now it flickered with uncertainty. They moved in tight formations, weapons raised, scanning for the lone soldier they believed broken. But the human's eyes, sharp and calculating, saw everything. Every movement, every pattern, every tiny mistake the aliens made. It all mattered. He thought of Earth and the endless training that had prepared him for moments like this. From freezing polar plains to deserts that burned under a cruel sun, humanity had learned endurance and creativity. Humans survived because they adapted, even when outnumbered and outgunned, and now he was about to show that adaptability. The young recruit from earlier crawled closer, using the rubble for cover. He was barely able to move, his suit torn and breathing heavy. The standing human gave a subtle nod. That small gesture, almost invisible to the aliens, communicated a plan. Trust your instincts and follow quietly. The alien commander stomped forward, sensing something amiss. Its glowing eyes scanned the battlefield. "Spread out," it ordered. "Do not let him escape. He cannot hide forever." The human observed the soldiers following the command. They moved with speed, but their patterns were predictable. He studied them carefully, noting their reliance on direct lines, lack of coordination, and overconfidence. For humans, strategy was not about raw strength. It was about turning mistakes into opportunities. And these aliens were full of mistakes. He moved silently to another position, keeping low and using the shattered terrain for cover. His steps were deliberate, careful. Each movement had purpose. Each second counted. Around him, the young recruit mirrored his actions, taking cues from his mentor. The aliens noticed the shifting positions of the humans, but they could not understand it. "Where are they moving?" one of the smaller aliens hissed. "They are hiding in plain sight." "It makes no sense. They cannot hide from us for long," another growled. "We have numbers, strength, weapons. They are weak, pathetic." The human smiled slightly inside his helmet. Strength alone was never enough. It was confidence, yes, but also thought, patience, and understanding. Humans had survived predators far larger, storms far deadlier, and challenges far more impossible than this. From his vantage point, he began to plan. The alien formations were scattered, overextended, and blind to certain angles. He could use the terrain, the debris, and even the alien overconfidence against them. A small device on his wrist began to hum. It was a tracker, designed to map the enemy positions in real time. The human adjusted it, analyzing the flow of the battle. Each alien soldier became a point, each weapon a line of potential danger. The battlefield became a chessboard, and he was already thinking several moves ahead. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the ground nearby. One of the aliens had fired indiscriminately at a cluster of debris, thinking to flush the humans out. Instead, it created chaos. Smoke, dust, and shards of metal flew into the air. Visibility dropped. The human took advantage immediately. He slid through the debris, silent and precise, moving closer to a group of alien soldiers who believed they were safe. Their overconfidence blinded them to the shadows that moved around them. The human stayed just out of reach, watching their every step. "This way," he whispered to the young recruit. Together, they maneuvered into a better position. The aliens had no idea the humans were already in motion. A tall alien with skin like molten rock stomped near the edge of the battlefield. Its eyes glowed with irritation. "Enough," it roared. "Bring them down. They cannot resist forever." But the humans were not trying to resist in the way the aliens expected. They were setting the stage. Using the terrain, smoke, and subtle distractions, they created confusion without firing a single weapon. Every alien misstep was noted, every pattern memorized. The human glanced around. From his calculations, he realized the aliens relied heavily on group movements. If he could split them even slightly, panic would spread faster than any attack. Humans did not need to overpower. They needed to outthink. He activated a small flare from his suit, sending a bright light into the corner of the battlefield. Several alien soldiers moved toward it instinctively, assuming it was a threat. They left gaps in their formation. The human saw it instantly. "Now," he whispered to the recruit. Together, they moved quickly, exploiting the gaps. The aliens were startled, their senses reacting slower than the humans' calculations. In moments, the battlefield shifted. What had seemed like complete control by the coalition now showed cracks. The commander's voice boomed across the chaos. "Do not let them regroup. Surround them. Crush them." The human paused, hidden behind a large boulder, observing the chaos he had created. Small, careful actions could unbalance an enemy far stronger than himself. And already it was happening. The aliens were panicked, unsure of what was real, unsure of what to attack. He remembered Earth's survival lessons: patience, observation, and timing. Wait for the enemy to make mistakes, then exploit them. Never rush. Never underestimate the situation. The aliens' overconfidence would be their undoing. From behind him, the young recruit moved with precision, silently taking position to assist. They did not need to fire yet. The aliens were already destabilized, fighting shadows in each other. The commander stomped again, frustration evident. "They are too clever. They cannot be defeated with force alone." "Yes," hissed another alien. "We need strategy. We need—" "Stop talking," the commander snapped. "Attack, move!" But even as it barked orders, the humans were in control of the battlefield in ways the aliens could not see. Their small size, speed, and coordination allowed them to move unnoticed, forcing the coalition into mistakes without a single human weapon being fired. The human glanced at the burning horizon. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows that worked to his advantage. Darkness was coming, and with it opportunity. The aliens relied on visibility, on intimidation, on the assumption that humans would fear. But the human knew the shadows, knew the terrain, and knew the patience required to survive. He activated another small device, a pulse that momentarily disrupted the alien sensors nearby. In a blink, several aliens stumbled, confused by phantom movements. He used that moment to shift positions again, always staying one step ahead. A low hum began in his suit, a reminder of the countdown he had set. Every second was precious. Every movement mattered. The aliens did not know it, but their confidence was fading. Their fear was rising, not of weapons, but of unpredictability, of strategy, of resilience they could not comprehend. The human breathed steadily behind his visor, calm, focused, unbroken. The battlefield, once a place of hopeless defeat, was transforming into a stage for human ingenuity. The aliens could feel it, though they did not understand it. Something in their ranks was changing, and it made them uneasy. He thought of Earth again, the oceans, the deserts, the mountains, the endless challenges humanity had overcome. Humans thrived because they adapted, because they endured, and because they refused to give up. The aliens had expected weakness. Instead, they would find patience, cunning, and determination. The young recruit moved closer, signaling that he understood the plan. Together, they prepared for the next step. Every movement, every calculation, every observation brought them closer to turning the tide. The commander raised its arms one last time before nightfall. "They will not escape," it roared. "We will end them now." But the human only smiled slightly inside his helmet. Endings were never guaranteed. Not when humans were involved. Not when patience, strategy, and willpower were on their side. As darkness began to fall over the cratered battlefield, the human remained hidden, calm, and calculating. The aliens could declare victory all they wanted, but the game had changed. The human was no longer just surviving. He was preparing to strike, to turn weakness into strength, and to show that humans were never to be underestimated. And in the shadows, the human waited, patient, ready, unbroken. The battlefield had changed. Where the aliens once moved confidently, now confusion reigned. Dust and smoke swirled in the fading light, shadows stretching across craters and debris. The human soldier crouched behind a shattered wall, watching the alien forces falter. Each movement they made seemed uncertain, hesitant. Their numbers were still greater, their weapons powerful, yet they were no longer in control. The human adjusted his visor, scanning the battlefield. From his vantage point, he could see patterns forming, gaps in formation, overextended patrols, and soldiers distracted by their own confusion. This was exactly what he needed. The key to victory was not strength alone. It was exploiting weakness, thinking ahead, and using the enemy's overconfidence against them. The young recruit, hidden a few meters away, mimicked every movement. He was learning, absorbing the methodical patience of the seasoned soldier. Together, they would create ripples in the enemy ranks that would grow into waves. A massive alien, its skin like molten metal, stomped toward a crater. "Where are they?" it demanded. "They cannot hide forever. Bring them out." The human remained calm. He had no intention of revealing himself yet. His advantage lay in observation, patience, and timing. He had seen battles lost because of haste. Humans did not rush blindly, they studied, waited, and struck precisely. He activated a small device on his wrist. A faint hum spread outward, subtly interfering with the alien sensor networks. Within seconds, several alien soldiers stumbled, unable to coordinate with their units. Confusion spread like wildfire through the ranks. The commander roared in frustration. "Focus, regroup. They cannot outthink us." But the humans had already adapted to the chaos. Using smoke from burning wrecks and debris, they moved silently, slipping through shadows. Each step was calculated, each movement deliberate. The aliens, unable to comprehend the strategy, became easier to manipulate. The human watched a squad of aliens attempting to flank him. Their movements were large and predictable. He waited until they were in perfect alignment, and then triggered a series of small mines hidden among the rubble. The explosion was precise, non-lethal, but effective. It startled the aliens, forcing them to scatter in panic. "This is impossible," hissed one alien. "They are everywhere and nowhere." The commander's glowing eyes narrowed. "Concentrate. Do not be distracted by illusions." But illusions were exactly what the human intended. Every movement, every sound, every misstep he created forced the aliens to question their surroundings. Fear began to creep into their confidence. Humans did not rely on raw power alone. Their strength came from ingenuity, courage, and the ability to exploit any advantage. From behind a mound of broken metal, the human activated another device. This one emitted a series of holographic images of soldiers moving in different directions. The aliens paused, trying to identify the real humans from the projections. Their hesitation was all the human needed. He signaled to the recruit, and together they shifted position. The aliens reacted slowly, their minds struggling to adjust. Each hesitation widened the gaps in their formation. It was subtle, almost invisible, but deadly effective. The commander growled, "They are too clever. Focus your fire." But the humans did not need to fight directly yet. Strategy had already given them the upper hand. The battlefield had become a game of chess, and every move by the aliens was anticipated, countered, or redirected. The human noticed a group of alien soldiers attempting to regroup near a large crater. They believed they were safe, but the human had other plans. He used a combination of smoke, holograms, and small bursts of sound to divide them. Confusion rippled through their ranks. A smaller alien with insect-like limbs attempted to charge the human's position. It swung its blade recklessly, blinded by panic. The human sidestepped effortlessly, guiding it toward a trap of debris that caused it to trip and fall. Its fall echoed across the battlefield, a warning to others that the humans were not as weak as they had assumed. "Retreat! Regroup!" the commander bellowed, its voice trembling with frustration. "They cannot be defeated by strength alone." The human smiled faintly inside his helmet. Strength alone had never been enough to defeat humans. Intelligence, patience, and adaptability had carried his species through centuries of impossible odds. The aliens had relied on arrogance, assuming that numbers and firepower guaranteed victory. They had underestimated the human spirit. He paused, observing the young recruit. Despite injuries and exhaustion, the recruit's eyes shone with determination. Humans inspired one another, even in the darkest moments. Courage was contagious, and the battlefield had already begun to shift. The sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows across the craters. Darkness was coming, and with it, the humans' advantage would grow. The aliens relied on visibility, on intimidation, and on assumption, but the human knew how to use shadows, silence, and patience to his favor. He activated another device, a subtle pulse that disrupted alien communication briefly. Orders went unheeded, movements faltered, and panic spread quietly among the ranks. The commander's face, glowing with fury, twisted as it realized the humans were not just surviving, they were controlling the flow of the battle. The human remained calm. Every step he took, every adjustment he made was precise. He did not need to fight yet. The battlefield itself had become his weapon. Every piece of debris, every crater, every shadow worked with him. From his vantage point, he could see the coalition's formation beginning to fracture. Soldiers were isolated, confused, and reacting to false threats. Humans had learned that survival often depended on turning weakness into opportunity, and that is exactly what he was doing. He glanced at the young recruit again, signaling subtly to move closer. Together they prepared for the next phase, the moment when observation became action. Every move had been designed to create advantage, to turn the tide without unnecessary risk. A massive alien stomped near a burning tank, swinging its weapon at anything that moved. It failed to notice the human's position, focused only on visible threats. This was the mistake the human had anticipated. Timing and precision were everything. He crouched slightly, preparing to move swiftly. The recruit followed his lead. They were small, agile, and unpredictable, qualities the aliens could not counter with raw power alone. Humans thrived in chaos, and the battlefield was now perfectly chaotic. The commander screamed in frustration. "They are too clever! Focus, attack!" But the humans did not attack yet. They had already set the stage. Each distraction, each movement, each false signal had sown seeds of confusion among the aliens. Soon the seeds would bloom into decisive opportunity. The human took a deep breath. Every calculation had been precise. Every observation noted. Every risk assessed. They were ready to shift from patience to action. He thought of Earth again, its oceans, mountains, deserts, and skies. Humanity survived because it adapted. It thrived because it refused to surrender. The aliens had expected weakness. Instead, they would find resilience, cunning, and courage they had not anticipated. The young recruit nodded slightly, understanding the signal. They were ready, not just to survive, but to take the battle into their own hands. And in the shadows, where the aliens saw only weakness, the humans prepared to strike. The tide was turning, confidence had begun to falter, panic had begun to spread, and the moment of revelation was approaching. The human's mind was calm, focused, and precise. He knew that in war, timing was everything. Strength could intimidate, weapons could destroy, but strategy, patience, and courage could turn even certain defeat into victory. And so the battlefield waited, unaware that the humans had already claimed it, not through power, but through intelligence, adaptability, and unyielding spirit. Night had fallen over the battlefield, but the chaos of war had not ceased. Smoke and dust hung thick in the air, illuminated by flickering fires and the occasional glow of alien energy weapons. The coalition soldiers moved cautiously now, their confidence replaced by confusion. What had once seemed like an easy victory was slipping through their grasp. The human crouched behind a pile of wreckage, his visor reflecting the fiery glow. He was calm, focused, and entirely in control of the situation. Every alien movement, every sound, every flash of light was noted, analyzed, and planned for. He was no longer hiding. He was orchestrating. The young recruit, breathing heavily, stayed close, mirroring his every motion. Though exhausted and injured, the recruit's eyes burned with determination. Humans drew strength from each other, and the presence of the seasoned soldier reassured him. Together, they were about to make a statement that would resonate far beyond this battlefield. The coalition commander stomped forward, its massive arms swinging with fury. "Enough!" it roared. "Find them! Destroy them! They cannot escape." The humans did not move immediately. They had already created the perfect conditions. The alien forces were fragmented, distracted, and panicked. Their communications were faltering, their coordination failing. Every attempt to reorganize only revealed more weaknesses. The human raised a hand slightly, signaling the recruit to spread out and take small positions along the debris. Each movement was precise, silent, and unnoticed by the aliens. Shadows hid them, and the flickering light from fires masked their actions. Humans thrived in situations where others relied on size or intimidation. Tonight, shadows and cunning were their weapons. The commander glared at the battlefield, sensing that something was wrong. "Where are they?" it demanded, its voice trembling with anger. "They cannot be here. They cannot outthink us." But outthinking was exactly what the humans had done. Using the terrain, distractions, and calculated misdirection, they had forced the coalition into a state of constant reaction. Every alien movement had been predicted. Every instinctive action countered. Humans did not merely survive, they adapted, controlled, and exploited. The human activated a small device on his suit, releasing a soft, pulsing light that created illusions of movement across the battlefield. Alien soldiers reacted instinctively, shifting positions, firing at empty shadows. Confusion spread like wildfire. The commander's glowing eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible," it hissed. "They are everywhere and nowhere at once." The human waited, crouched in the shadows. He did not need to fight directly yet. The battlefield was already his. Each alien misstep, each panic-induced action played into his plan. Patience had brought him to this point, and timing would bring him victory. From the rubble, the young recruit signaled quietly. They were ready. The human nodded slightly. The final act was about to begin. The commander stomped toward the center of the battlefield, attempting to rally its soldiers. "Focus!" it bellowed. "Do not be distracted." "Kill them!" But distraction was precisely the point. The humans had created a controlled chaos that the aliens could not understand. The coalition's strength was irrelevant now. Numbers meant little when the battlefield itself had been turned against them. The humans stood slowly, letting the movement be seen. A ripple of tension spread through the alien ranks. They saw a lone figure rising from the shadows, calm, deliberate, and unafraid. The human's visor reflected the fires and destruction, hiding his expression, but not his confidence. The commander stomped closer. "Do not move," it demanded. "This is your last chance to surrender." The human stopped, standing fully upright. Silence fell over the battlefield. Even the smaller aliens paused, unsure of what to do. Their leader's voice carried, shaking with authority, but now tinged with uncertainty. Humans did not act like this when they were weak. Humans did not remain calm when defeated. Something was different. The human raised his hand and removed it slowly, deliberately. The helmet came off with a smooth motion, revealing his face to the alien forces. His eyes were steady, unwavering. His expression calm, resolute, and fearless. The aliens froze. Their mouths opened in shock, eyes widening at the sight. They had expected panic, fear, desperation, but none of that was there. What they saw instead was humanity in its purest form: determination, courage, and indomitable will. The commander's voice faltered. "Impossible," it muttered. "How?" The human did not speak. He did not need to. The moment said everything. Humans were not defined by size, strength, or advanced technology. Humans were defined by spirit, by courage, by the ability to endure and overcome no matter the odds. A small group of alien soldiers attempted to attack, but hesitation froze their actions. The human had not moved yet, but his presence alone was a weapon. Fear, respect, and awe combined in their ranks, paralyzing them. Humans had survived situations far worse, and the calm in front of them told a story of centuries of resilience. The young recruit stepped forward, inspired by the human's display. He too removed his helmet, showing the resolve in his own eyes. The alien forces, already confused, now faced a vision of confidence they could not comprehend. The commander bellowed, attempting to regain control. "Attack! Kill them!" "Do not hesitate." But hesitation had already taken root. Soldiers looked at one another, unsure, uncertain. Every instinct, every learned tactic now seemed ineffective. They had underestimated humans, and the revelation was breaking their cohesion. The human's voice finally came, calm but commanding. "You assumed victory because you saw numbers. You assumed defeat because you saw injury, but you did not see us." The commander's forearms trembled. "We will," it began, but the words faltered. Confidence had been replaced by fear, doubt, and disbelief. The human continued. "Humans survive because we endure. We adapt because we must. We fight because we will. And we never ever surrender." The alien ranks wavered. Orders were forgotten. Focus had been lost. They had believed themselves superior in every way, and now that belief was crumbling. The battlefield, once a scene of certain human defeat, had shifted entirely. The humans' team moved now, not recklessly, but with purpose. They struck at key points, exploiting gaps, isolating small groups. Confusion turned to retreat as the aliens realized that brute strength alone could not win this fight. The humans' strategy, patience, and courage had turned the tide. The commander's eyes blazed red, fury mixed with shock. "Retreat! Regroup!" It bellowed, but the words carried less weight now. Soldiers hesitated, unsure, disorganized. Humanity's display of resilience had changed the rules of the battle. The human did not chase them. There was no need. Victory had been declared not through force but through presence, strategy, and spirit. The aliens fled, leaving behind weapons, pride, and the illusion of control. The battlefield was quiet once more, but the silence was different. It was the silence of awe, respect, and a lesson learned too late. The human stood amidst the rubble, helmet removed, eyes scanning the horizon. The young recruit joined him, equally determined, equally aware of what they had just accomplished. They had not just survived, they had proven that human will, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even overwhelming odds. The human turned to the recruit. "They will remember this," he said simply. "They will not forget the humans who stood when victory seemed assured for them." The recruit nodded, understanding fully. It was not about fear. It was not about power. It was about the spirit, the determination, and the unbreakable resolve that defined humanity. Above them the stars glimmered. The fires of battle still smoldered, but the humans' presence dominated the landscape. The aliens had learned a lesson they would not forget. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph in ways that defied expectation. And in that quiet moment, the human put his helmet back on, preparing for whatever came next. The battle was over, but the war was far from finished. Humanity had shown its strength, not through destruction, but through courage, intelligence, and will. For the first time, the coalition understood. Victory over humans could never be guaranteed. The battlefield was quiet now, though the air still carried the smell of smoke and scorched metal. Alien ships and vehicles that had once roared across the land now lay abandoned or retreating into the darkness. The humans stood among the wreckage, calm but alert, knowing that victory was only the first step in a much larger fight. The human soldier removed his helmet once more, letting the night air touch his face. His eyes scanned the horizon, taking in the destruction and the retreating aliens. Every shadow, every movement, every sound was noted. Humans had survived worse than this, and the lessons of today were now part of their legacy. The young recruit stepped forward, exhaustion written clearly across his face. Yet there was pride in his eyes, a recognition of what had just been achieved. "We did it," he whispered, almost in disbelief. The human nodded, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. "We survived. And more than that, we showed them what it means to face a human." Around them, the battlefield was a mixture of destruction and calm. Alien machines were smoking, their weapons silent, their ranks scattered. The Coalition's arrogance had been shattered. Where they had once seen a small, weak group of humans, they now saw an unbroken force of courage and strategy. The human walked among his team, checking for injuries and ensuring everyone was accounted for. Each soldier, no matter how small their contribution, had played a part in turning the tide. Humans had a strength that went beyond physical power or technology. It was teamwork, trust, and the unshakable belief in one another. From the horizon, alien ships began to retreat into orbit, leaving the planet behind. Their commanders had learned a lesson that would not be forgotten. Humans were not to be underestimated. Size, strength, and numbers could intimidate, but strategy, courage, and adaptability could change everything. The human turned to the recruit. "Do you understand what happened here?" he asked. The recruit nodded. "Yes, they thought they had won. They thought we were weak, but we were ready." "Exactly," the human replied. "And it's not just about surviving today. It's about showing the galaxy that humans are not easy prey. We fight smart, we fight together, and we never surrender." As they spoke, other human survivors began to regroup. Though battered and weary, their spirits were high. Victory had not been handed to them. It had been earned through patience, observation, and unwavering determination. Each human knew that the battle would be remembered, not for the size of their weapons, but for the size of their courage. The commander of the alien coalition had fled to a distant ridge, watching in disbelief. Its soldiers were scattered, its orders ignored, its control broken. Even now, it could not comprehend how humans had managed such a feat. Fear and respect mingled in its mind. They had underestimated the humans, and that mistake could not be undone. The human walked toward the center of the battlefield, his team following closely. He paused, taking a deep breath, and looked at the scarred landscape. "This is just one fight," he said quietly. "There will be others. But today we showed that humans can survive anything. We are never defeated unless we choose to be." The young recruit smiled, understanding the weight of those words. "I will remember this," he said. "I will never forget it." "Good," the human replied. "Remember it, learn from it, and be ready. Humans are counted out too often. Let's make sure they never forget again." As night deepened, the humans began to clean up the battlefield. Wounded soldiers were tended to, equipment was salvaged, and positions were secured. The planet had been a place of defeat for humans before, but now it stood as a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. Every scar in the land told a story of courage, strategy, and survival against impossible odds. The young recruit approached the human again, looking up at him. "What now?" he asked. The human looked out toward the stars, the distant glimmer of alien ships retreating into the void. "Now," he said, "we prepare, we learn, and we continue. Humanity is never finished, never defeated, and never afraid to rise again." Above them, the stars shone bright. The fires of battle smoldered but would eventually die out, leaving behind a quiet world. Yet the memory of the human soldier standing tall, helmet removed, would remain as a symbol. A reminder to the galaxy that humans were clever, courageous, and relentless. The aliens would carry this lesson with them forever. They had seen that humans were unpredictable, strategic, and strong in ways they could not comprehend. Their arrogance had been shattered by a single soldier who refused to be broken, who observed, adapted, and waited for the right moment to act. The human turned to his team. "Tonight we celebrate," he said. "Not because the battle is over, but because we endured. We fought smart, and we proved that humans are not easy to defeat." The survivors nodded, feeling a surge of pride. For a moment, the horrors of battle faded, replaced by a quiet sense of achievement. Humans had faced overwhelming odds, and they had prevailed. From the ridge, the alien commander watched, a mixture of fear and respect in its eyes. It would remember this day, and the next time humans appeared, Caution would replace arrogance. The galaxy had learned a lesson in humility, and the human standing in its center was the teacher. The human's eyes scanned the battlefield one last time before looking up at the sky. "We are small," he said softly, "but our spirit is vast. Our courage is endless, and our resolve is unbreakable. That is what makes humans strong. That is what makes us victorious." The young recruit smiled again. "I understand," he said. "I will carry this with me always." "Good," the human replied. "Because one day you may need it. One day the galaxy will test us again, and when it does, we will be ready. Humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans endure. And humans will always fight." The stars above shone as witnesses to the moment. The battlefield was quiet, the alien forces gone, and the humans stood victorious, not through sheer power but through intelligence, patience, and courage. The story of their survival, their strategy, and their resilience would echo far beyond this world. The human removed his helmet once more, feeling the night air against his face. It was a symbol, not of strength, not of technology, but of humanity itself. Calm, focused, unbroken, and ready for whatever came next. As the human and his team began to move toward their camp, the galaxy seemed different. No longer were humans seen as weak. No longer could they be underestimated. Today, a single human had reminded the universe what it meant to endure, to adapt, and to fight. And in that quiet, victorious moment, the human looked back at the battlefield one final time. Fires burned low, shadows stretched across the craters, and the stars above glimmered. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed, and humanity's spirit was stronger than ever. The galaxy would remember this day. They had declared victory. But the human, standing tall, helmet removed, had shown them that victory is never final. Not against those who refuse to be defeated,